The idea is a very simple one, and the Mamba mentality simply means trying to be the best version of yourself. That's what the mentality means. It means every day, you're trying to become better.
Trivial things weren't going to pull my attention. I had a purpose. I wanted to be one of the best basketball players to ever play. And anything else that was outside of that lane, I didn't have time for, right? So, basketball for me was the most important thing. So everything I saw, whether it was TV shows, whether it was books I read, people I talked to, everything was done to try to learn how to become a better basketball player. Everything. And so when you have that point of view, then literally the world becomes your library to help you to become better at your craft.
To me, the mentality is a really simple one in the sense that the confidence comes from preparation. So when the game's on the line, I'm not asking myself to do something that I haven't done thousands of times before, right? So when I prepare, I know what I'm capable of doing, I know what I'm comfortable doing, and I know what I'm not comfortable doing. Right? And so in those moments, if it looks like I'm ice cold or not nervous, it's because I've done it thousands of times before. So it's one more time.
Nobody in his history of coaching had your level of work ethic. So many guys tell stories about your work ethic.
Yeah.
What was really your work ethic like, and for how long did you stay disciplined?
Well, I mean every day. Since 20 years. It was an everyday process and trying to figure out strengths and weaknesses. For example, jumping ability. Now, my vertical was a 40, it wasn't a 46 or a 45. My hands are big, but they're not massive. Right? So you got to figure out ways to strengthen them so your hands are strong enough to be able to palm a ball and do the things that you need to do. Quickness, I was quick, but not insanely quick. I was fast, but not ridiculously fast. Right? So I had to rely on skill a lot more. I had to rely on angles a lot more. I had to study the game a lot more. But I enjoyed it though. So like from the time I can remember when I started watching the game, I studied the game and it just never changed.
If your job is to try to be the best basketball player you can be, to do that, you have to practice, you have to train. Right? You want to train as much as you can, as often as you can. So if you get up at 10 in the morning, train at 12, train for 2 hours, 12 to 2. You have to let your body recover. So you eat, recover, whatever. You get back out, you train, start training again at 6. Train from 6 to 8. Right? And now you go home, you shower, you eat dinner, you go to bed, you wake up, you do it again. Right? Those are 2 sessions. Right? Now imagine you wake up at 3, you train at 4. You go 4 to 6, come home, breakfast, relax, blah, blah, blah. Now you're back at it again, 9 to 11. Right? You relax, and now all of a sudden you're back at it again, 2 to 4. And now you're back at it again, 7 to 9. Look how much more training I have done by simply starting at 4, right? And so now you do that, and as the years go on, the separation that you have with your competitors and your peers just grows larger and larger and larger and larger and larger. And by year 5 or 6, doesn't matter what kind of work they do in the summer, they're never going to catch up because they're 5 years behind. Right? So it makes sense to get up and start your day early because you can get more work in.
Like I see a lot of players take vacations with other players that are close friends. And we'll just take vacations just to take vacations or just hang out just to hang out. I never did that. Because when I retire, I didn't want to have to say, I wish I would have done more. I don't want that.
It's really simple. It's like whatever you're doing at that moment is what you're doing at that moment. The obsessiveness is having attention to detail for the action that you are performing at the time you're performing it. And if you can have that kind of focus, you can't help but to have a certain level of obsession or attention to detail. Like you're always going after it, always going after it, always going after it. And if there's a challenge that ensues, oh good, I want to see how I stack up to that. So you go after it, And it's just, it's fun. It's like you get a chance to compete against opponents and you get a chance to see where you stack up against them. It's like, I want to see. Maybe I'm not good enough today. If that's fine. I'll be good enough the next time I see you though. Right? So whatever moments occur, good, bad, or indifferent, I can use those moments to propel me forward. Use those as fuel to help me be a better player.
So at 13 years old, I had a I had a kill list. And so, they used to do these rankings. It was Street and Smith basketball rankings. And I was nowhere to be found because I was like 6'4", scrawny, like 160 pounds soaking wet. So I was like 57 on the list. And so I would look at 56, 55, all the way up to number 1, who these players are, what club teams they played for. So when we go on an AAU travel circuit, I got to hunt them down, right? And so that became my mission in high school, is to check off every other person, all those 56 other names, hunt them down and knock them down. So like at 13 years old, I played the longer game, because my game wasn't about being better than you at 13. It was to be better than you when the chips are really on the line. So when you played at 13, I would size you up and see what your strengths and weaknesses are. How do you approach the game? Are you silly about it? Are you goofy about it? Are you good at it just because you're bigger and stronger than everybody else? Right? Or is there actually thought and skill that you put into it? Right? And when I'd play to my weaknesses. I wouldn't play to my strengths. I played to my weaknesses. Because when you're playing summer basketball, there's so many games. So there's not a lot of skill work being done. So when are you going to get better? Right? When you're playing in competition situations, you're only playing to your strengths. Why? Because you want to win. Right? So what I would do, I was work on the things during those games that I was weak at. Left hand, pull-up jump shot, post game. Right? So I have a strategy. And so then fast forward to when I'm 17, and my game is completely well-rounded, and that player at 13 that I saw at 13 is still doing the same shit at 17, now you got a problem. But in the NBA, it was actually easier, because what I found in the NBA is a lot of guys played for financial stability. And when they came to the NBA, they got that financial stability, so therefore the passion and the work ethic and the obsessiveness was gone. So I'm looking at that, I'm like, oh my God, it's gonna be like taking candy from a baby. No wonder Mike wins all these fucking championships.
The Achilles injury is the worst injury for an athlete. It's like the worst. It's like the kiss of death. And when I ruptured my Achilles, I knew what happened. I knew the severity of the injury, and I didn't know if I was gonna come back from it. I was angry. I was mad. I was angry. I worked so hard for us to get to the playoffs and to have a chance to win another championship, and then this happened. So I had a lot of anger. And then from the anger, then I was sad. And then you start feeling bad for yourself. And then you say, all right, okay, I'm done being a baby. Okay, what am I gonna do now? Because I can't sit here and give up. That's not an option. So now what? It's a process. You look at process. What am I gonna do? What can I control? Surgery, we'll do the surgery. Come out of the surgery, recover. From there, physical therapy. Okay, physical therapy. Piece by piece by piece by piece by piece, start running, back on the court. So I broke things down into sections and said, okay, I'm gonna focus on resting right now. This is it. I'm gonna focus on moving my toes and then walking. So you look at every challenge at every step, and that's how you're able to be resilient and come back from these things. Every kid, every person has the ability to put one foot in front of the other, right? So like if you're saying, okay, I'm gonna climb Mount Everest, at the bottom of the mountain and you look up and you're going, I'm not going to climb Mount Everest, right? But if you break it down into sections and just one foot in front of the other, one step at a time, next thing you know, you're at the top of the mountain. Coming back from my Achilles, I came back from the Achilles and I was fine, and then the next year I fractured my knee, right? It's like, oh, here we go again. Come back from that, next year, tear my shoulder. Here we go again, right? But if I looked at those things in totality, it'd be depressing. But if I look at it as just the fact, it happened. Can't do anything about it. It happened. Now what are you gonna do? One step at a time. Well, man, because I think the greatest fear that we face is ourselves. Actually, I think it's not anything that's external or anything that's superficial. I think the greatest fear you face is yourself, because we all have dreams, and it's very scary sometimes to accept the dream that you have, and it's scarier still to say, okay, I want that. It's scary because you're afraid that if you put your heart and soul into it and you fail, then how are you going to feel about yourself, right? So being fearless means putting yourself out there and going for it. No matter what, go for it. Not for anybody else, but for yourself.